Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted White House National Security Advisor John Bolton and other top U.S. officials for a special round of talks in Jerusalem. The meeting centered on the threat Iran poses not only to the region but to the entire world, and how those risks could be mitigated by reapplying stiff sanctions on the rogue Islamic Republic that had been lifted by the Obama administration. Netanyahu said the two discussed strategies to continue rolling back Tehran's aggression and make sure it never has nuclear weapons. He also welcomed Bolton as a tremendous friend and champion of the American-Israel alliance.
After a more than 4-month surge in confrontations, Israel is once again allowing the shipment of commercial goods into the Gaza Strip. The consignments of fruit, vegetables, fuel, and construction material moved into the territory at the Kerem Shalom crossing, signaling an easing of tensions. Neighboring Egypt has been engaged in securing a long-term ceasefire between Israel and the Hamas terrorist rulers of the Palestinian enclave. Gaza's fishing zone in waters under the naval blockade have also been expanded from 3 to 9 nautical miles off the southern coast and to 6 in the north.
As Egyptian mediators tried to clinch a truce deal aimed at calming Gaza, some 20,000 Palestinians rioted on the Israeli border as part of the ongoing weekly protest after Friday Islamic prayers. An Israeli army spokeswoman said troops responded with riot dispersal means to prevent breaches of the border. And in a separate incident, Arabs in the village of Kafr Kadam near Nablus held a violent demonstration against U.S. President Donald Trump's yet-to-be-released Middle East peace plan. The protesters hurled rocks and burning tires at Israeli security forces, who responded by firing stun and smoke grenades.
Security footage captured the moment that a knife-wielding Arab terrorist emerged from the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem and suddenly tried to stab an Israeli policeman. The intended victim was not injured in the attack, and the 30-year-old assailant was shot and killed by nearby officers. A similar attack was foiled earlier this month in Hebron when a 26-year-old Palestinian was arrested in possession of a knife. The suspect confessed that he had been plotting to stab Israeli civilians or security forces. The Israeli police released a statement assuring the public that they maintain vigilant efforts to locate, prevent, and thwart attempts by attackers and terrorist organizations at all times.
The leader of Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah terror organization is boasting that his group is stronger than ever and would very soon celebrate victory in Syria, where it has been fighting alongside the forces of President Bashar al-Assad. Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah made the statements during a live television broadcast marking the anniversary of the 2006 war between the Iranian-backed group and Israel. The Jewish state has increasingly attacked forces belonging to Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah, even though the Muslim troops had the backing of massive Russian air support. Recently, the U.S. and Israel announced intentions to withdraw from the UN's Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization by the end of this year because of the bias against the Jewish state. Now those plans could be rolled back following policy changes by UNESCO's new Director General, Audrey Azoulay. Last month, Prime Minister Netanyahu called to thank Azoulay for her efforts to end discrimination against his nation after no anti-Israel resolutions were enacted in nearly a year. The UN official also has reportedly invited the premier to participate in a convention on anti-Semitism in New York on September 26th. UNESCO is best known for its World Heritage Program to protect cultural sites, but in recent years it has passed several measures that falsely labeled ancient Jewish sites as Palestinian, thereby denying the historical connection between the Jewish people and the Holy Land.
Many of Britain's 300,000 Jews are said to be considering emigration amid near record levels of physical, verbal, and online attacks so far this year. 9% more British Jews have moved to Israel compared to the same period in 2017. This coincides with rising controversy over opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. The 3 leading Jewish newspapers headlined their front pages, "United We Stand," and argued that any Corbyn-led government would be an existential threat to Jewish life in Britain. A photo of the politician making the salute of the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organization has been published in the last few days. Another recent picture shows him attending a 2014 wreath-laying ceremony for PLO terrorists involved in the 1972 Munich Olympic massacre of 11 Israeli athletes and a German policeman. Journalist Miriam Shaviv wrote that Corbyn's career of fighting Zionism and his alliances with groups seeking to destroy the Jewish state embodies the very reason why Israel's existence is forever necessary as a refuge for Jews fleeing persecution and distress.
The imam of a Copenhagen mosque has become the first person to be indicted under new Danish legislation against hate speech. In an address live-streamed on social media last year, Mundir Abdallah recited Islamic verses calling for Muslims to fulfill their destiny by killing Jews. He also demanded another invasion of Europe in a realization of promises by the Prophet Muhammad, and vowed that the State of Israel and U.S. military bases in the region would be obliterated as soon as Muslims regain power. While it is legal in Denmark to cite religious texts such as the Quran or the Bible, the new criminal code explicitly prohibits the incitement of murder, which is punishable by up to 3 years in prison.
The last Nazi war crime suspect facing deportation from the U.S. has finally been removed from his New York City home. Yakiv Pali was found guilty of serving as an armed guard at the Travniki concentration camp in Nazi-occupied Poland in 1943. The same year that 12,000 Jewish prisoners were slaughtered. His expulsion was ordered back in 2005, but no countries were willing to take him. President Trump made it a priority to carry out the ruling, though, and he just persuaded Germany to accept the now 95-year-old war criminal after weeks of diplomatic negotiations.
Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and all major political parties condemned a speech by a minor lawmaker who used the term final solution in calling for a revival of a white Australia restrictive immigration policy. In one of the most divisive speeches seen in Parliament, Senator Fraser Anning called for a national vote on whether to completely ban Muslim migration. The phrase final solution is most commonly associated with the genocidal Nazi plan for the annihilation of the Jewish people during the Second World War. Anning claims that he was unaware of its historical usage.
Muslim worshippers at this year's annual Hajj pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia took time out to slam Washington for relocating its embassy to Jerusalem, and they also demanded increased Arab unity. Several told reporters that they would pray for Palestinians and all the Muslims around the world. More than 2 million people from 165 countries gathered at Islam's holiest site as part of the 5-day ritual that is a once-in-a-lifetime duty for every able-bodied, financially capable religious observer. The State of Israel assisted 5,200 Muslim residents of Judea and Samaria to make this year's pilgrimage. Jewish authorities worked with Amman and the Palestinian Authority to provide round-trip passage aboard 88 buses that carried the travelers from Jericho through Jordan to Mount Arafat in the Saudi Kingdom.
The intelligence unit of Israel's Air Force is increasing the number of its complex airborne missions and will soon be under the command of its first woman leader. We can only refer to her as Major G for security reasons, but we can tell you that she's about to be promoted to Lieutenant Colonel in the coming months. She's been in the Air Force since being drafted in 2003 and initially trained as a pilot with the 131st Transport Squadron. Major G said she's happy about her new job, which she described as a great privilege, along with a great responsibility. She added that the true work is still ahead and expressed pride to serve in the Israeli Air Force.
In yet another mega Israeli business success, the SodaStream drink manufacturing company was just sold to PepsiCo for $3.2 billion. Pepsi's parent company says that the deal is part of its strategy to diversify its portfolio of health-conscious beverages in apparent attempts to gain an edge over its chief rival, Coca-Cola. SodaStream makes machines that carbonate regular tap water, which becomes even more refreshing with the addition of various flavors. The company was targeted by the pro-Arab BDS movement in 2015 for having been based at an industrial park in Judea and Samaria. That campaign backfired, though, when SodaStream relocated to a new facility within the 1967 lines, which then forced the laying off of more than 500 Palestinian workers.
Mazel tov and congratulations to Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Haifa's Technion Israel Institute of Technology. The schools were not only recognized in the 2018 academic ranking of the world's top universities, but both made significant progress on the list. The Technion came in 77th, up from last year's 93rd ranking, while Israel's oldest academic institution, Hebrew U, moved into the number 95 spot, also a significant jump from 2017. Honorees are selected following the annual evaluation of 1,200 global facilities. Criteria includes the number of Nobel laureates among alumni and staff, as well as the quality of research output and per capita student performance.
Thousands of stargazers recently held an early morning vigil at one of Israel's remotest areas, hoping to catch sight of shooting stars during this year's meteor shower. Locals had the rare task of directing traffic on a moonless night at the Ramon Crater Nature Reserve in the heart of the Negev Desert, surrounded by terrain that's eerily similar to the lunar and Martian landscapes. The streaks of light are created by dust particles burning high in the atmosphere, produced by debris from the Swift-Tuttle comet that passes the Earth every 133 years. The reserve has officially been designated as an international dark sky park due to its extremely low levels of light pollution, which afford great views of the natural fireworks display. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Danielle Abraham. She is the director of Volcani International. Danielle, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Danielle, tell our viewers a little bit about Volcani International Partnerships.
So Volcani International Partnerships is a non-profit organization, and our goal is to strengthen both the State of Israel and the global community. And we do this by serving as a bridge between Israel's agricultural expertise and innovation and the rest of the world.
You are connected somehow with the Volcani Institute. Can you tell our viewers a little about what is that?
Yes, so the Volcani Institute is Israel's agricultural national research organization. I think many of your viewers, many of you would actually not have heard of Volcani itself, but indeed of their work. They are nearly 100 years old, and they are the driving force behind Israel's agricultural innovation.
You know, Israel's known for agriculture. We made the deserts bloom, as was prophesied in the Bible. How impactful is our agriculture around the world?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I have to say it's hugely impactful. When you see international delegations coming to Israel, they make the usual stops, obviously, with the Prime Minister, with the President of the State of Israel. And most commonly, they actually come via the Volcani Institute on their way out. Everybody around the world seems desperate to get their hands on and understand what Israel has to offer the world in terms of agricultural innovation, whether it is from post-harvest issues to making the deserts bloom, using water in the face of climate change, and ensuring environmental sustainability. I mean, the greatest challenges facing communities around the world today really are food security, resilience in the face of climate change, and environmental sustainability. And Israel, through the Volcani Institute, can provide fantastic answers to so many of those challenges.
You know, one of the things that I find so amazing is that in the 1980s, we heard a lot about the drought, the famine in Africa, and you don't hear so much about that today. And a lot of that has to do with Israeli technology. Kenya is one of probably the largest exporter of flowers in the world. Ethiopia is also a place of incredible harvest. How much has Israeli agricultural technology transformed Africa?
So Israeli agricultural technology really has had fantastic impact in Africa. I would say the impact is not great enough still. I'll tell you something I find fascinating, and anecdotally it's absolutely wonderful for me on a personal level. When I was in Nairobi in Kenya recently, I was standing representing Israel in a small little booth about post-harvest solutions. And whilst there was next to us, fantastic exhibitions that were greater and perhaps more impressive, all of the Africans actually were drawn to our stand because they saw the Israeli flag and they know what Israel has done in the past and can do in the future for Africa and African agriculture.
One of the places that we have incredible impact today is Asia. We've transformed their milk production, cattle, a lot of different livestock issues that they were having. How important is our agriculture technology going to be in our relationship with Asia into the future?
So I think also it stands for Africa and it stands for Asia, and I think it also stands for the rest of the world. You mentioned the cows just now. Actually, Israel has the highest producing milk cow in the world. I think the statistic is 30% more productive than the American milk cow, and people really flock from all around the world to see how has Israel achieved this against the odds. I think the role that Israeli agricultural technology has to play for pushing diplomatic relations, for impacting on the food security of countries around the world cannot be understated. And I think what's beautiful about it is it really provides the opportunity to step aside from the politics. Israel obviously is situated in a difficult neighborhood, and more often than not the conversation goes to politics. However, it's important that we don't live as an island in isolation, but really find our place at a table with the global community. And there is no better way to obtain that place and to sit at the table than to talk about agriculture, Israel's expertise and innovation, and what solutions we have to offer to the world.
This country is very small. It's the size of El Salvador or the state of New Jersey. How have we become such a powerhouse in the agricultural technology field?
It's a question I ask myself every day, and every day I think, wow, the achievements are just incredible. I think for the real answer there's a combination of factors, and I think we should go back in history and look at the beginning. I think if you recall Mark Twain when he was here, I think he wrote in 1869 in Innocents Abroad that he was supremely unimpressed by the landscape that he saw here in the Holy Land. He said the hills are barren and dull of colour. Now that is not the case today, as everybody knows. So what happened between 1869 and today? Well, the year was 1907, and there was the second wave of Aliyah, the serious pioneers that were working out in the heat trying to develop the land. Zionism has always had this strong connection to the land, but they were failing miserably. And what they did was they wrote a letter in Hebrew, which we still have, to somebody called Mr. Vilkansky. Now he was a famous agronomist living at the time in Europe, and they said, would you be willing to come? And for an amazing reason, he agreed. And Mr. Vilkansky came over to the Holy Land and he agreed to work with them, and his big vision was to establish a serious, dedicated agricultural research institute which would perform the research which would be needed to innovate and overcome the challenges. And that was established in 1921 and named after Mr. Vilkansky, and that was the Volcani Institute, set up before the State of Israel. Now, the other element to that, I think, is they say necessity is the mother of all invention. And I think Israel's capacity for innovation, matched with the hard challenges that they faced, led to this incredible innovation and overcoming of challenges. I think there was never a question of if we could overcome the challenges, but really how. And Volcani has been responsible for driving us forward through the ages and into the future.
As the world population grows, agriculture is going to become a more important issue to everyone around the world. What is the future of Israeli agriculture?
So I think the future of Israeli agriculture really does resonate with the narrative of the startup nation. The startup nation is, you think in terms of high tech and you think in terms of drones in the sky. Now that is the future of agriculture. It is no longer the sole farmer ploughing away in his field. Today you could be the farmer sitting behind a computer with the air conditioning on, actually managing your crops from afar. Really the drivers of precision agriculture, monitoring things remotely, determining how much irrigation and fertigation and things are going into the field from your computer, I believe is the future. And I think Israel pushing the boundaries of innovation for agriculture provides its relevance to the world in that sense.
Daniel, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I think for everybody watching today, I would like to say that again, that food security, climate change and environmental sustainability are immense challenges facing the global population. And I believe that the Volcani Institute and Israel has an incredible role to play. If anyone wants to engage or is interested in finding out more, we are here for you.
Danielle, thank you for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Keren Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, you will witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy through the gathering of the exiles. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Those who dreamed about the Jewish state, those who survived the Holocaust and found in Israel the anchor, the security, those who wrought the historical miracle and against all odds established a state, those who stepped into the breach and defended the young Jewish state, so many of them paid with their lives, those who arrived in the homeland to their new home, those who propelled Israel forward step after step, those who stand at the technological vanguard, and the loyal partners who ensure the continuation of the Zionist enterprise. All those are Keren Hayesod, because Keren Hayesod is Eretz Israel. The return of an ancient people to their biblical homeland, a nation whose values inspired mankind, only to endure centuries of suffering. The ultimate tale of redemption from the ashes of destruction. This remarkable story is the story of the State of Israel. It is also the story of Keren Hayesod. Thanks to the dedication of Keren Hayesod's supporters, huge resources were available to make the State of Israel a reality. Founded in 1920, Keren Hayesod galvanized Jewish donors across the world in a unified effort to develop the infrastructure of the first sovereign Jewish state in 2,000 years.
אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
By the time the State of Israel was born in 1948, Keren Hayesod's funds had been the driving force behind the establishment of over 900 communities in the Jewish homeland. Its donors helped found many of the iconic institutions we know today, including the Hebrew University and Israel's Philharmonic Orchestra, ensuring that as Zechariah envisioned, Jerusalem's streets would once more be filled with boys and girls at play. Keren Hayesod's supporters also helped rescue tens of thousands of desperate Jews fleeing a burning Europe, bringing them to the sanctuary of the land of Israel. Ezekiel's prophecy of bringing dry bones to life had been fulfilled. Throughout the decades, Keren Hayesod has been there for Jewish people coming home. In the 1950s, by financing the creation of still vibrant cities, Eilat and Sderot, bringing to life Ben-Gurion's vision of making the Negev desert bloom. In the 1960s and 70s, raising funds and providing a lifeline for the country's development during wartime. And at the close of the century, helping to bring immigrants from the four corners of the earth in a modern-day exodus, rescuing tens of thousands of Jews from Ethiopia and 1 million Jews from the former Soviet Union, delivering them from danger and distress. To this day, Keren Hayesod's activists continue their mission of aliyah and absorption. Last year, more than 31,000 Jews were helped to make their lives in the land of their ancestors. Keren Hayesod remains at the heart of Israel's development, as Israel's barren land has been transformed into a hub of creativity, innovation, and success. Keren Hayesod's supporters have been there every step of the way. They have empowered 2,000 pioneering young Israelis to reinvigorate 65 distressed communities. All of this has been achieved through Keren Hayesod's ongoing efforts to build unbreakable bonds with Israel among Jews in the diaspora, Christians, and people of faith from across the world. In the book of Jeremiah, the Lord says, "There is a hope for your future. Your children will return to their borders." Every day, Keren Hayesod supporters are making this vision a reality. Thanks to Keren Hayesod, the State of Israel continues to grow from strength to strength.
Come join Keren Hayesod in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Finally, a world leader has stood up and said the truth about Iran. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's 12-point demands of Iran finally correspond to the reality of Iranian aggression, support for terror, and attempts to conquer the entire Middle East, destroying the state of Israel in the process. Those demands include a complete Iranian withdrawal from Syria, from Yemen and other areas that have been conquered by Iran and its proxies, an end to enrichment in the Iranian nuclear program. For what is a country that it's awash in oil need a peaceful atomic energy program, an end to Iran's ballistic intercontinental missile system, which has one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to carry nuclear warheads to Europe and to the United States and the rest of the West. An end to Iran's support of terror, Iran being the largest state supporter of terror in the world, with terrorist groups operating in Europe, in South America, and 5 different continents. It is an end to Iran's calls to destroy the state of Israel, to support terrorist groups who are actively seeking to kill Israelis, such as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and of course Hezbollah, cutting off an end to Hezbollah. As the Secretary of State said when he was questioned about his 12-point plan, does anybody sane in the world really want to support a terrorist state? A terrorist state that has been complicit in the massacre of over 500,000 Syrians? Does anybody believe that that state has legitimacy, that that state should continue to get tens of billions of dollars in sanction relief and investments? Does anybody believe that Iran should continue to conquer large swaths of the Middle East with the goal of destroying America's principal allies in this region? We in Israel, of course, welcome the Secretary of State's bold and visionary plan, and we stand with him in the fight to end Iranian aggression, terror, and butchery.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.